You may be seated. Please pray with me. O God, help us slow and quiet and calm our busy minds in this moment as we listen to your word. Our world is filled with so much rushing and worry that it is not always easy to be still and know your Spirit with us. But your word brings wisdom and peace. Help us to be present and receive your grace. Amen. A reading from the first letter of Peter. Come to him, a living stone, though rejected by mortals, yet chosen and precious in God's sight. And like living stones, let yourselves be built into a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For it stands in Scripture, "See, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious. And whoever believes in him will not be put to shame." To you then who believe, he is precious, but for those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the very head of the corner, and a stone that makes them stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the word, as they were destined to do. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Once we weren't a people, but now we're God's people. That's a big transition, isn't it? Once we had not received mercy, but guess what? Now we have received God's people mercy because we are God's people. In order, it says, to proclaim the excellence of the one who called us out of the darkness and into the marvelous light. That's quite a calling, isn't it? Kind of think, oh, that preacher I see on TV can do that, but that's not me. But you know what? Each of us are called into that process because a great price has been paid for us. A debt has been canceled. And that's one of the things that we're looking at today is that, a milestone in the history of this congregation is past. We've paid off a mortgage. And you know what? Paying off any debt, having it canceled is a reason for celebration. Whether it's paying off a credit card balance or an auto loan, let alone a criminal fine, having that paid off means freedom. That something that was an obligation to us is no more. That weight that is on our back has been released. We can do new and other things because we don't have those obligations any longer. And God's plan for us is to be free of debt. Certainly financially, but also the debt of sin that we've talked about already. Financial debt as well as spiritual. And a lot of times when we Christians start talking about this, we use a word that we don't use in the English language with other people a whole lot. We say redeemed. But if you think about the meaning of the word and where it's actually used, like a pawn shop. If you were to take something that was yours and give it to the pawn shop, they'll give you something that's worth far less than what you entrusted to them. Then, at some day, you would have to pay it back to regain what was yours in the first place. That is a redemption. To recover what was yours in the first place. And if we are redeemed, man, how would that change the way I look at my life, how I look at relationships, friendships, the world around me, if I understand God bought me back because I was his in the first place. Now, it's fair to say that, yes, we've paid off this mortgage, but the truth be told, we paid off a mortgage on God's facilities rather than our own. Because in English, we got this kind of a messy deal because we use the same word to talk about this building as we do to talk about us as people. And I've shared this with you before. I still remember the guy wrote a book that the title is, and I've got it on my bookshelf, They Love Jesus, but Not His People. Talking about people who aren't Christians. And I was grown up with this little thing, being taught from the earliest childhood, this is a church, this is the steeple, open the doors and see all the people. But John Kimball blew my mind, and he said something I knew, but he transformed something I had been taught and revealed the reality. He said, this is the church made up of the people who meet in a building with a pretty steeple. At first I went, whoa, that's a great reframe, and it's something that we need to do and keep our head on because we use the word for church for the physical as well as the people. And I wish our language was more adept at being clear about that. But it is a resource that God has entrusted to us for his purposes. In Matthew 25, Jesus tells some really powerful parables about the day of judgment, about the day when there is clarity to what is of value and what is not. And one of the things he tells a parable about, he says there was a man who had some bucks, and he's doing it in large measures of silver, a talent. You know, that's like a wheelbarrow full of silver. And he's going on a journey. And let's face it, they didn't have jet planes, so if you're going anywhere, it's going to take a while. So he calls together some of his most trusted servants, and to one he gives 5 talents of silver to, and says, invest it for me. Another he gives 2 to, and says, invest it for me. Another he gives 1 to, and he says, invest it for me. It tells us that he gave it to them from what he knew about them already, about how trustworthy they were. The one that was more trustworthy, he gave more to. And the one that, you know, there's probably a lot of people he didn't trust anything to, but because this is a lot of money. Well, one day he comes back and says, all right, guys, let's get together and let's find out how you done. All right, Mr. Dude, I gave 5 talents to. What happened? He says, well, I took them and I invested them, and I made an additional 5 talents on top of what you gave me. And the master goes, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been entrusted with a little, but now you will be entrusted with a lot because you were faithful with a little. I know you'll be faithful with a lot. Enter into the joy that we have and are celebrating. Mr. 2 Talent comes in and says, well, what'd you do? And he says, well, I took the 2 talents and made it into 4. He says, well done, good and faithful servant. You have taken a little and been faithful in a little. I'm going to entrust a little more to you. Enter into the joy of your master. Then the dude he trusted 1 to comes in. So what'd you do? And he goes, well, I know that when things don't work out, you can be awful harsh. So I didn't want to lose anything, so I buried it. It was perfectly safe. No one was going to get it. Here's your 1 talent back. And the master's going, what, are you crazy? Why didn't you at least put it in the bank where I would have earned interest? You took what was mine and no longer looked for my interest in it. And he continued to put down that servant because something had been entrusted to him, and he did not do what he should have done with it. He did not use it in his master's service. Now, we've been entrusted with a lot of resources as a congregation. You know, we got these facilities, we got stuff on the internet, we've got a little money in the bank, and we got a lot going on. And God's entrusted it to us. Us people who have been redeemed by him. Not only has he entrusted it to us, but he's entrusted his purposes with it to us. Are we going to put it into God's use or our own? And today there's a number of people that are going to be telling some little stories about how God is using his church. Remember, the physical part as well as the people for his purposes in ways far beyond Sunday mornings. The Christian groups who gather and meet and glorify God and make disciples. Other groups that share joy and life in its ups and its downs and friendships and fellowship. Events that serve our community and even our nation. The ways that we feed the hungry, water to the thirsty, clothes to the naked, and offer welcome to the strangers. For those of you who didn't catch that, that's referring to another parable in Matthew 25. Young people growing up and be encouraged in ways that will strengthen and guide their entire life. Ways that God is using us, the way that God is using his resources and his people in ways that bring eternal blessings and have eternal value. I'd like to invite Elizabeth Pauley up, the president of Theta Alpha, to be the first person to share with us. We were blessed to have her and so many of the ladies from Theta Alpha here last week.
Good morning. I'm very grateful to be here again this week. Like Pastor Paul said, we were here with our sorority Theta Alpha last week to serve with you all. And I'm just going to share a little bit more about what we do as a sorority and how we're able to use the church in just so many different ways. We're so grateful. The picture up on the screen right now is actually from our bid day from this past semester. And every single semester we have a bid day, which is where we welcome our new girls into the sorority. And this semester, God truly blessed us so much because we had 27 new girls. And that had never happened before because we started this semester with about 13. A lot of girls graduated or they left for various reasons. And now we have about 40. So we times two and more. So it was just really so incredible. And we have probably on average about 2 to 3 events a week here at the church, which is truly so incredible. We have sisterhood events where we get to hang out and just fellowship with one another. We have prayer nights, which are more spiritual activities, getting in the Word, growing closer together. And then we have a semi-formal, which is like a fun dance. And that's in about a month or so. I can't believe it's almost October. And it's about a month. And then we have our bid day, like I said. And we have a few more events. We have outreaches as well, which is out in the community. And yeah, we're just truly so grateful to be able to use this church as much as we do. And just, you guys are always in our thoughts and our prayers. This church has such a special place in my heart. And we're just truly so thankful for how God is moving in it. And just so grateful to be able to celebrate on this very special day with you all. So thank you.
And do I remember that some of those prayer gatherings are open to the general public? And if you let me know of some of them, I'll share and love to be there. Now, many of you know our brother Ivan Castro. He's the pastor of, don't start playing it yet. And you're going to need some volume on that. From Refugio de Dios. And he's going to share a little bit of a story about how he first got connected with us and how God led him here. And God has done an amazing thing in and through that congregation and those people that we are blessed to be a blessing to them. And he will be preaching the second and third Sunday of October while my wife and I are in California.
Good morning, beautiful people. This is Pastor Ivan Castro. I'm not here today because I'm actually on vacation. As Pastor Paul does, I also go on vacation sometimes. But I just wanted to come here this morning and congratulate you on this beautiful day where you have paid your church off. And this is a big accomplishment. But also, let me tell you another big accomplishment that you have done as a church that I think has a lot of value as well. You have been able to impact many, many lives through the ministry of having a church where other churches can actually meet. And I remember about 11 years ago when we came to Florida from New Jersey, we had a small congregation. We had about 8 people back then. And we didn't have a place to meet. And I was looking in Orlando where we have a lot of Hispanics and couldn't find anything. Everyone was actually charging us a lot of money and we couldn't find a place. And I remember one time I went to get my daughter Gabriela from the high school, and when I was coming back, the Lord put in my heart to call OPC. And I remember thinking to myself, Lord, you know, this church is here in Oviedo. I'm pretty sure they're going to charge us a lot of more money. Plus, there's not a lot of Hispanics in this area. I got home and I started working on the mission and the vision of our church. And the Lord reminded me, Ivan, you have to call this church. So I called. It was about 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And I remember thinking, nobody's going to answer the phone. And yep, somebody answered the phone, and it was Pastor Paul. And we started talking, and I was telling him what we were and all that. And I said, Pastor, we're looking for a church that we can use on Sundays just to have our praise and worship and preach the word. And he said, and I remember clearly, he said, this is not our building. This is God's building. And I was really impacted by that. And I said, wow, you know. And I said, Pastor, you know, we're a small congregation. We don't have a lot of money. And he said to me, Ivan, whatever the Lord puts in your heart, that's what you are going to pay. And I cannot lie to you. I started crying softly. And then it got worse as we kept talking, and he was basically telling me without knowing what I was actually writing in my mission and the vision of the church. And we started talking, and every time Pastor Paul and I meet, you know, we talk a lot. And you are so blessed to have such a great pastor, and I'm pretty sure he's a friend for many of you. But I just wanted to remind you, and through that, we have been able to reach, we're about 60 people right now. We have been able to reach many people that have come to the Lord through our ministry. We have been able to help people in other countries like Venezuela, Dominican Republic. We have been able to help other ministries. And I just wanted to say, yes, owning the building is great, and I congratulate you for that. But what we're building inside of people, reaching people for Christ, that has no price. So thank you so much for that, guys, and I hope you have a great celebration today. And by the way, we'll see you soon. Pretty soon, actually, I'll be around there to preach a couple more messages. So God bless you. Thank you for everything, and may you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, our friend Ivan. One of the things that's been very interesting, and I've enjoyed getting to meet some of these people, is that usually around 11 o'clock on Sundays, they have 16 people who are studying English from different parts, well, usually from Central and South America. And I expressed, I need to learn some Spanish. And he said, well, you can, but we need to learn English. And they are so appreciative of being able to participate in that for what Refugio de Dios is doing, but also for us here as well. I'd like to invite Monique up, and She's one of the Scoutmasters with Troop 931.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Monique Judge. I am one of the Scoutmasters at Troop 931. We meet here on Monday nights. This has become a really great place for us, but I know that you don't often get a chance to see us or to see what we do, so I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what a lot of the Scouts get to do here. So a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And those are all the things that we help the Scouts learn how to be better and better at every day. And those are the things that they hope to achieve. Scouting can help the youth develop the skills with problem solving, independence, and communication. These skills can help them succeed in school, in college, and beyond. It can help the youth develop character traits like work ethic, morality, and tolerance. Scouting can help the youth develop a love for the outdoors and a connection to their local area by participating in community service, opportunities, campouts, and more. Through their journey to their path to Eagle, Scouts learn increasingly more complex tasks for each rank, such as first aid, navigation. They learn to cook. They can learn different tools. They are encouraged to have their Scout spirit and many, many more. As they earn each rank, Scouts often, without realizing it, get job interview experience through the practice of having their boards of review. So they get to meet with adults in our group, and they're asked questions, and they're asked to tell what they've learned and how they plan to grow. Scouts are required to earn 14 merit badges. They have special focuses that we all hope that our kids learn. So some of those are personal finance, some of them are personal management, citizenship, but they also have an opportunity to learn at least 7 towards their special interests. And some of those interests can be robotics, animal husbandry, archery, chess, rafting, canoeing, kayaking, hiking. There's tons and tons. There's over 136 they can earn. These requirements often lead them on many adventures, so you're seeing many of the pictures that we've taken through the year or so. They're going to remember these things for the rest of their life. And having Oviedo Presbyterian Church as a home base for them, it provides them an opportunity to build these life skills and to equip the next generation for self-sufficiency. It helps them build friendships that they'll remember for their whole life. You provide not only a place to gather, but also a community to serve. So many of their memories are going to include their Monday night activities that they have here, working on building benches for the duck pond out back, rebuilding the playground, and serving you on Scout Sundays. On behalf of the troop, though, I'd like to thank you all for providing us a space to help these Scouts learn and grow into the leaders of the future. So, thank you.
Thank you, Monique. So God says, what did you do with my building that I entrusted to you? And this is a story that we have some people sharing. How have you used God's resources? In a moment, you're going to hear someone mention a woman named Edna Vanus. And Edna and her husband Don were some founding members of this congregation. I'm looking at people who were here then, and we sure miss Edna. She was a blessing, and she was behind a lot of the quilts and banners and tapestries. She taught people how to do that all. She was involved with this group of ladies you're going to hear from, and then got them connected with meeting here.
Hi, this is Dee Moran, and this is called the Friday Faberholics Group. We have been meeting here since probably 1998. I first met Edna from our development in '93, and she invited us to come to celebrate our friendship at this church, which has welcomed us with open arms. We have had a wonderful time here. We have met wonderful people. And as you can see, our group has grown and grown and grown. And we love everyone. They've done a great job, and thank you for helping us.
All right, Joy, I need to hand you this so other people can hear.
You hear me? Yes. Hello, church family. I am the representative of many music teachers who've had the privilege of hosting their recitals here. And I started having my recitals, I should say our recitals. Keith's always been there with me. I think when the church opened, right from the beginning. And every year there's up to 3 different days, 2 to 3 recitals on each of those days. So first of all, and can we show maybe a couple pictures? These are some of the kids at the last recital. I want to give a big shout out to Paul because he is so about always helping me find a date. Our preacher wears so many hats in this church, and one is he is very good at technology. And we had one situation where, this is my dumbed down version, the audio-visual equipment was changed and no longer spoke to my husband's laptop, which had a lot of keynote things that we used during the recitals. And Paul jumped right in, and they were like 2 scientists going at it, and they had this Frankenstein contraption by the end of wires so that those could speak. And, just, I was so grateful for their skills, but for the love that, Paul shows to all the people here at our church that share in these resources. And his first question isn't like, are you going to make a mess? Or, he just extends a warm welcome. For my church families, it's become just a wonderful place to meet, to celebrate their child's hard work. I have grandparents that never, ever miss a recital. I see people coming up when we have the tree, and they're taking their family pictures here. And then you allow us to use the kitchen, which a lot of churches don't do. And so we're allowed to have refreshments for more just warm times of fellowship. And I think just the consistency of always the space, the kids feel as relaxed as they can going in such a stressful thing to do. They know what they're coming in for. They know this beautiful piano, and that helps a lot. Some of the I just was going to say some of the things that the kids learn is they learn resilience and confidence in doing these recitals. I've had some sad stories of kids, things just not going the way they want, and they go crying off the stage. One was crying before she got up to the stage, and those same kids the next year, or the next recital, were back up here. And to see that growth, and it's like, this is really hard, but I can do it. This space provides that opportunity. And so I guess the last thing I would like to share is from the words of a very dear friend of our church, Steve Connell. His kids, Kevin and Hannah, have done a lot of sharing their musical talents, and their mother, Bethany, too, of course. And we've had so many fun. They were probably in recitals for at least 10 years. So I'm going to leave it to him to wrap up.
What does this church mean to the Connell family? It means dozens of recital Saturdays over more than a decade. Some of those Saturdays were 1 recital, some were 2 recitals, some were even 3 recitals. One of those recital Saturdays involved a broken finger and some heavy lifting from a really good piano teacher. Thank you, Miss Joy. Many of the recital Saturdays included me, under the guise of being helpful, serving snacks from the kitchen with Keith. Any snack testing that occurred in the kitchen stays in the kitchen. Right, Keith? We agreed. Most recital Saturdays, we were blessed to have family and friends attend and then join us in our traditional post-recital celebratory dinner at a local eatery. Bethany and I have been back to some recital Saturdays since the kids have moved on, just because it's always a special event and always a special place to be. I can't say how grateful we are for this little church because it embodies so many memories for us that we'll treasure the rest of our lives. Thank you, thank you, thank you, OPC family.
That's right. You said you were going to close with that.
No.
I reached out to Compton Persad, who's an amazing man. One of the things he's done is to take toiletries that we have gathered, and Glorianne's usually at the center of that, and distributing them to one of the places is the Oasis at the Sharing Center in Longwood, where they have showers and laundry for people that are homeless. And Compton and his wife Indira would take many of those there, as well as some food supplies there. But Compton is also the head of the polling place that meets here. And, in November, this place is going to be packed, like every polling place, and that's a good thing. So this is one way that God uses these facilities to play an important role in our community and even in the nation. And he wrote and explained a little about what he does. My name is Compton Prasad, and I'm the clerk representing Seminole Supervisor of Elections. Residents of Precinct 80 who opt to cast their ballots on November 5th can feel comfortable knowing that poll workers here are trained and ready to ensure there's no intimidation in the process. Every registered voter will have a sample ballot mailed to his or her home address. Use your sample ballot to research candidates and initiatives from the state, county, and municipality. Bring your sample ballots to make it easier when you show up to vote on Election Day. Also, please note we cannot accept a mail-in ballot on November 5th, as there is no way to ensure delivery to the elections office by 7 p.m. You can, however, surrender it to get an in-person ballot if you choose to do so. We are here to ensure that you cast your ballot securely and know that it will count. Remember, your vote is important. It is your voice in the electoral process. We will be ready, so please come and make your vote count. Our predecessors fought hard for the right to vote. Make them proud. And the next is our sister Gloria Ann. She's a member at Nancy's church, so she kind of hops around back and forth between the two of us. She's here practically every day of the week working on something, whether it's the landscaping in the grounds, particularly the plants, and she reaches out to the people walking up and down the sidewalk, offering them clippings and all to extend their garden. And she's kind of the closest thing Nancy and I have to family here in Florida, and she's certainly the aunt to our dogs. If you haven't met our sister Gloria Ann Ford, you really do need to meet her because God uses her in powerful ways. Lately, among many other ways, God has used her to gather together food and to provide it personally to people who need it. And we are blessed that she's able to use the facilities here as home base for gathering as well as boxing and distributing. We're surrounded right now by 105 different items that were collected from a local preschool. And she collects goods from our congregation, from Hope Presbyterian, several apartment complexes and preschools, and then distributes them personally to people who are in need. She also writes on those boxes lots of messages of hope and of opportunity. Gloria Ann, we are blessed to be a part of what God is doing in you and through you.
Well, thank you. I could not do it without that, your kindness and everything else, and the kindness of many other people.
Amen. And, ready, Matt? And someday you have to hear Matt's story about how God just says, hey, go to church. Is that pretty close?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about it. But hey, everybody, my name is Matthew Bronson. I'm a UCF student. Reason I'm up here, kind of in theme with everything else, all these other stories that have been told, kind of how God uses these facilities to enact His will, in some ways bigger than others. But so kind of the reason I'm up here is I'm a part of a fraternity, Pi Kappa Phi, on campus. And every semester for the past several years, we've been able to use this church because of y'all's graciousness towards us to hold our new member initiation ceremony. And throughout the years, there's been different men that have been in charge of this ceremony, but this year it was me. And so for the first time I got to meet Paul, and I kind of saw the church very differently. Originally I was kind of like, oh, it's just our venue where we meet to have the ceremony. It didn't mean much more than that to me, which is a very shallow way to look at it. But then, meeting Paul in person, I kind of got a much different perspective. I saw this place as it truly is, like a community of people gathering together to worship God, and it kind of stuck with me. Just the graciousness to use this church and not expect anything in return on y'all's behalf. And that kind of stuck with me as somebody who was very lost in his faith at the time. I kind of been living with a dead faith, I guess you could say. But as time went on, I kind of slowly realized, hey, I mean, I had this void in my soul, and God has literally put this right in front of me, a pastor so willing and ready to allow us to use this facility for our ceremony and to gather in fellowship with each other as brothers, like going through this journey of college together. I need to go to this church. What have I been doing? It's been right in front of me this whole time. So about 5 weeks ago, I started coming here. Just all of you had open arms. You know, I haven't met all of you yet, but I just felt instantly welcome, and I felt the presence of God more than I have in any church I've ever been to in my life. And my faith's never been stronger. And, you know, due to your graciousness, I've been able to share this story with my fraternity brothers. And I've been hearing from a lot of them that they've started to have this personal journey within themselves as well. So it's been a fantastic experience. I'm really hoping to get some more of my guys to actually come out to service. But I have been seeing, whether it's in this church or in other churches, that people are starting to realize the same things that I did, you know, a couple weeks ago. But I just want to thank you guys again for your graciousness and allowing us to continue to use this house of God as a fellowship for me and my brothers. So, thank you.
Awesome. So God's going, all right, what'd you do with my stuff? Did you put it to use or did you bury it? You know, my name's mentioned a lot, but in many ways, you know, I'm an extension of you all, and I know that we've gone kind of on a journey of this, and I appreciate the support of the congregation to do this, that, you know, we would be able to be, you know, all of us are generous, not just me. And I just happen to be a middleman in all of this. Some of you might have had the opportunity to meet Marique. She lives down the street here, amazing woman. And she's connected people from their neighborhood who bring food to go through the food pantry process that we have here. And a lot of other things. Just an amazing lady. If you get a chance to meet her, it's worth it.
Hi, I'm Marique Bartoldes, and I am the president of the HOA at Hideaway Cove, right down the block from the Oviedo Presbyterian Church. And we host our meetings here regularly, and we are grateful to Oviedo Presbyterian Church for hosting here. It's a wonderful place that we feel welcome in, and it's always a warm and inviting place, and it is conveniently located so that we have a lot of residents that attend our meetings. And we are also grateful for Pastor Paul hosting blood drives here almost every 12 weeks that we have them here, and he makes the entire area available to us and the church available for the staff at One Blood to take the blood from all of the donors, and we are grateful for everything that this church does for our community. Thank you.
And Sarah.
I'm in front today.
Yeah. It took me a second, but I found you.
I know. Good morning, everyone. Those who don't know me, my name's Sarah Warren. Children, the Bible tells us, children are a gift from the Lord, and they are a reward from Him. Some of you may know that because I have 3 boys who you've seen grow almost larger every single week. I'm also the Cub Master for Pack 100 that meets at this church on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of every month. We found this church after COVID. We were looking for the pack to have a home. After COVID, there were not a lot of places open to meet, like especially the schools. Schools were charging a large cleaning fee. And I said, I knew the scout troop there was a scout troop that met here. And so I said, you know what, let me check out the church. Luckily, with post-COVID, the sermons were online, and I wanted to make sure I take care of my Cub Scouts. They're like my family, and I wanted to make sure I was bringing them to a place that would welcome everyone, because as we all know, there are plenty of places around here in this world that don't have the open doors like this church has. So the first thing I did is I started watching Pastor Paul's sermons. I want to say, so what's this church about before I even, and we had been going to the First United Church, Methodist Church, before COVID. And the more I watched Pastor Paul's sermons, the more it didn't become just a home for Cub Scouts. It became a home for my family. I was like, this is what we've been looking for. This is why we never joined that other church, because it just never felt right. And this place felt right. So I told my family, I'm like, let's go. So we came with the boys one time, and then I told my parents, hey, you should try it. So we came, and we ended up joining the church, and the Cub Scouts ended up joining the church. And so the first and third Tuesdays, this place is filled with 20 to 25 loud, semi-feral children in ages that are kindergarten through 5th grade. And we're here to teach them some important life skills. We teach them things like cooking, and if you've ever seen a 3rd grader get their first pocket knife and the excitement on their face, I think you would never want to leave Cub Scouts. So we teach them knots. We'll teach them citizenship. We do the flag ceremony here at the church on those Tuesdays. They learn how to fold the flags. They learn how to vote. We vote on our favorite popcorn flavor, but they learn how voting is important. And they learn about safety. Because there's safety skills that are like camping safety skills, like how to hike safely, how to be safe with a knife, how to cook safely. But there's also other places they need to be safe as children, like around other adults and things like that, and how to keep those kids safe. So we really stress teaching kids how to be safe. So part of the Scout law that Monique mentioned is a Scout is reverent. And so it's so important for us that every rank has a duty to God that they have to earn in order to get that rank for that year. And all our kids earn rank. So they all do their duty to God. But how do you do that when you have kids who are from all different churches, and some of them don't even go to church? And this is going to be their only exposure to God. So how do we do that? Well, the most important lesson we teach them is many small hands can do great work. You don't want them to be overwhelmed and have to do this big thing, and that's what they have to do to make a difference in this world. So we teach them things like, we're going to go replant mangroves at UCF, and that's going to help. They're going to go plant those at the shore, and that's going to help with beach erosion. We're going to do scouting for food, where every year we spend 2 weekends going through Kingsbridge, east and west. First weekend we hand out those bags, and then the second weekend we pick them all up, and we bring them to the food bank. We teach them how all those small hands and all those bags that they're picking up from all these houses make a huge difference in our community. We've collected school supplies, pet food, and I think we've also done Samaritan boxes one year. And we also do flag retirements, so we teach them how to take care of the flag and what it means. So without the church, we would not have a home to do this in. And it makes such a huge difference. And I need to get more pictures so you can see how happy and how much fun we have in this church on Tuesday nights. It's a ball. And the best night we have of all year is the Pinewood Derby, where we turn this room into a racetrack, and they race all the cars they get to make. And my dad's out there helping them cut their cars out of wood. And it's so great to see the kids do something on their own. And I think that's one of the things that Scout teaches us is how to do things on their own and how to be, so they're good adults. So, and I just want to thank the church for making that possibility. And I never would have found this church without Scouting. So I'm so thankful.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to everyone who shared. You got to ask, how are you using the stuff I entrusted you to? And this, and in many ways, are affecting young lives, lives in college, lives of people that are going through hard times, communities that are trying not to hate each other because of house colors with HOAs, and giving life and giving blood and so many other ways, let alone what God is doing in and through Refugio de Dios and its many different ministries as well. What are you doing with my assets? Well done, good and faithful servants. You have been faithful with little, and you will be entrusted with much. Enter into the joy of your master. We're here because a lot of people gave big and little ways, not just in dollars and cents, but in hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. There's been some of that, all that scattered around here at different times. And I thank you as a church family who have that kind of heart. I'm going to suggest an amendment to the bulletin. I'd like to close in prayer and benediction, and then we'll end with, I surrender all. Our gracious God, our Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the many ways that you have touched our lives, directed our lives, for the people you have placed there with a message, for things that seemed like coincidences but never were, the ways that we sensed your presence in the midst of dark and difficult times, that you called our name when we were lost, and you call us. And we kind of give fish and loaves to feed a multitude, and there's no way it can be done because it is your work. But you take us, you take what you've entrusted to us in the hands of Jesus, you bless it and multiply it to be exceedingly abundant. Lord, may we learn that in our hearts and in our lives, that we have been redeemed and we are yours. Once we weren't a people, but now we are. Once we didn't have mercy, but now we do. That we might live as yours and in your kingdom and for your purposes through your love. Amen. And I invite you to stand for the benediction. And just one quick word. I know there's some people that need to go. God bless you and go with you. If you're going to stay